Well, it's episode 17. We're off of our summer vacation.
We took a little hiatus.
And now we are back. We're going to talk about more advanced brewing techniques.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about lagering or lagers in particular.
Style of beer.
Right. Most of the time you see like a German Pilsner or
Bohemian Pilsner.
Right.
Most of our big commercial beers, our Budweisers, our Coors, our PBRs, are lagers.
Right.
That's
light,
kind of the style.
crisp, fresh.
A little bit less alcohol.
Right.
A little bit less hops.
Yeah.
It's that old school style of beer. That banquet beer is what people used to drink. Now, lagering, the term lagering has to do with the fermentation process.
Right. So the best way to go about this is to start with a decent recipe, of course.
Solid recipe. And the recipe is not going to be the technique for brewing it's no different than doing ale, right?
Right. There's nothing different.
You're getting your extract or you're extracting your own wort from a mash tun.
Right.
Then you're adding hops during your hop stage. And that's it.
Yeah,
so
that's it. So it's all the same as a regular standard brew.
Okay.
Just what happens is you have to control your fermentation temperature.
This is where the advanced part comes in.
Right. So the advanced part about this is a fermentation controlled chamber.
Yes.
Or a temperature controlled chamber.
Something that will keep your lagering fermentation not too high.
Right. So the yeast that I used yesterday for a Munich Helles or Heels or Helles or however you want to talk about that one.
BEER, beer.
Yes. The yeast that I used was White Labs Munich Helles.
Okay.
And
it's a lagering yeast.
It's a lagering yeast.
And lagering means bottom fermenting, right?
Right. And it says to ferment between 48 and 52 degrees. That's the optimal range.
Time out. When I started brewing, every beer I made, they were like, 68 to 72.
Right.
This is a lot lower.
Right.
My basement's not going to get the job done.
No.
I have to have something dedicated to keeping it cooler.
Right.
Even in the wintertime, my basement doesn't get that.
Right, exactly.
My house doesn't get that cold.
Right. So, here's the problem, especially during the summer.
Yeah.
Your groundwater's hot.
Hot. It's coming out of the 70s.
You're trying to cool this beer down, and so let me tell you about the process that I did yesterday. First time I've ever done this, and it still made me nervous.
Yeah.
So I used my counterflow wort chiller,
Yep.
and I got the beer to 80 degrees.
80 degrees. That's still 30 degrees off.
That's higher than I would ever pitch an ale yeast.
Yeah.
So I closed my fermenter up before I
Okay.
pitched my yeast, and I went ahead and I got it down to 68 degrees. It took about maybe 5 hours.
Still haven't pitched yeast yet.
Still haven't pitched the yeast.
Okay. Because that yeast wants to live in the high 40s, low 50s.
Right. Well, it'll do okay in the 68 to
It'll
72
still ferment.
range.
It would ferment in the 90s.
Right.
It would ferment in the 100s.
Sure. But let me tell you
not
what
it's
it
designed to do.
smells like 68 to 72 degrees. It smells like you're at a Sulphur Springs in my kitchen for 2 days.
Classy.
And it was
so we have
awful.
to rein this yeast in by getting it cooler.
Right.
Because lagering yeast is different than an ale yeast.
Yes.
An ale yeast is fast, strong, right out the gates like a dragster.
Right.
And it can finish a fermentation in 3 days.
Sure.
And then just spend the rest of the weeks cleaning stuff. A lagering yeast takes time to churn through those sugars.
Right.
And it's a bottom fermenting, so it doesn't have nearly as much action as you'd see in an ale.
Right.
And it has to take some time. Now, are you going to leave this lagering yeast in longer than your normal 2 week span?
Normally, yes. So I have a little more research to do because you say that a lagering yeast is slow and low.
Yeah.
I've been watching my brewometer page
Been going nuts.
all day today. It started at 1048 and it's down to 1043.
So it's already
dropped
going.
5 points.
But if you were to crack that lid, you'd see nothing.
Probably not.
Nothing. Because it's
Probably
all
not.
happening inside.
Right.
If you've ever lagered in a carboy and you can see it, you can honestly see it looks like oceanic currents in there.
Right.
It's
you can see the clumps of yeast.
It's
going
the
from
most
top
fun to
bottom.
watch.
Yeah.
It's the most fun fermentation to watch.
Yeah.
So this lagering yeast is a little bit, it's colder, and it's the reason you're doing it at this temperature is to not give yourself off flavors.
Right.
This yeast needs a certain temperature to do the job it's designed to do.
Right. So by dropping that temperature from 68 down to 50, I'm going to get rid of that sulfur smell.
Yes.
I'm not going to produce any sulfur or any, I can't think of the word right now. It's the butterscotch.
Diacetyl.
Thank you. I'm not going to get any of that. But just in case, what I want to do is I want to watch my fermentation, and I want to let that fermentation process at 50 degrees complete.
Finish it out.
Right.
Weeks.
Could be
2 weeks.
Could be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump that temperature up about 10 degrees.
Re-excite that yeast.
Get that yeast excited, and if there is any diacetyl, that butterscotch candy flavor, right, it's going to go in there and take care of it.
Okay, so
clean up after itself.
So that's the diacetyl rest.
Right.
You're cranking up your temperature again because yeast like that warmth. Even lager yeast like to be warm.
Yeah.
But we have to force them to be cold for so long.
Yeah.
But just to make sure it cleans everything out. Whenever you do a Pilsner or you do a German Helles, or Hella, whatever we want to call it.
Heels.
You always want to crank it up at the end. I cranked mine up for about 6 days, actually.
Right.
Give it a lot of time. I'm not putting it in the 80s. I'm just getting it warmer than it was, 10, 12, 15 degrees.
Right.
Let it finish out. It's going to eat all of that byproduct that it created at the low and slow temp.
Right.
And then it's going to make a night, and then boom, I'm in cold crashing.
Yeah.
So it's just a diacetyl rest. So it's not necessarily the brewing process or the fermenting process. The advanced part is holding the temperature.
And so let's talk about that, because I know we've talked about some equipment before. And guys, it's very, very simple. This is not anything to be intimidated by. Craigslist you a chest freezer or an old refrigerator.
$25.
Yeah. Get on Amazon and find you an Inkbird temperature controller.
Dual temperature control.
I mean, you can geek out as much as you want on this. Go from building a brew pie with a Raspberry Pi.
I got a buddy does it. Got 3 probes.
Yeah. STC 1000 and an Arduino board.
You could go as redneck DIY as you want. Some people use swamp coolers. They'll put their fermenter into a cooler with water and add ice to it.
Yeah.
And then they'll just read it with a thermometer. And if it gets a little too hot, they'll check it the next morning, put more ice in. If it gets a little too cold, they'll put water back in.
Yeah.
So you can geek out as much as you want and build this great DIY, all digital, or you can put it in a freaking cooler with ice.
Yeah.
Just to keep it nice and slow and cold, because that ice is going to, thermodynamics, we know that it's going to go from hot to cold, so it's going to lose that heat that's inside that fermentation chamber out to your cold water surrounding it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a break the bank kind of a deal.
Right.
But you can get that middle range like we have, where it costs us like $80, $90 to have a solid, controllable fermentation chamber that goes within 1 or 2 degree range. And that's it. And it'll stay right there. It'll kick on when it needs to. It'll kick off when it needs to.
Yes.
It's pretty simple. But like you said, Raspberry Pi, they got multi-probes. You can have it within a tenth of a degree. Where you can have it in a cooler in your garage and just check it with yourself twice a day, every 12 hours, what have you. So it's really about the building process outside of the fermenter that is the challenge.
Right.
That's the advanced technique.
Yes.
And you guys if you ever brew a beer with lagering yeast and you go too high, you'll know instantly why you keep it down in the 50s.
Yes, you will.
Because it is going to stink like eggs.
It'll
and it's
smell
going to taste like eggs.
Awful.
It is gross.
Yes.
So I think that really covers lagering. Boom.
That does. Let's cover I want to talk about the recipe I did yesterday just for a second, just because it was
German.
I'm going out of the box.
For you it is. Yeah.
So
lagering.
Yeah. So most Munich Hell's recipes that I've found have the dirt, earth,
natural,
herbal, hops.
Yeah.
And I said, no.
That's not in your wheelhouse.
No. So I decided to go with Cascade.
Very, very bright, very floral, very citrusy.
Right. The German Huell Melon.
Yep,
hops,
love those.
Because I'm all over that, right?
Juicy.
And you know what I'm going to do in secondary, what I will call secondary?
What's that?
For the last 2 days inside the fermentation tank, I'm going to dry hop with cucumber.
Really?
I'm getting crazy.
You're not a dry hopper with hops. No, you're doing it with freaking vegetables.
I'm going to step out of the box. I'm getting a little bit experimental here. So it's going to be my cucumber melon hills.
Okay.
Heels.
This could be win or lose.
Yeah.
But that's why we do it. Because you're out 5 gallons, we'll still drink it.
Oh, I know it'll get drank.
We'll still get drinking. So there you go. You got lagering. You got the advanced techniques, the advanced builds. You can check out handyhomebrew.com. If you got any questions, check out the forum. Matt Paulson, we got another segment after our summer break.
I'm so ready. It's been so long. Pints and Picks.
We got to go to Pints and Picks. Episode 17, we just talked about advanced lagering techniques.
Yes, we did.
We're back from summer vacation, and we are talking pints and picks. First time, it's hot outside. I got to quench my thirst. Matt Paulson, what are we drinking today?
Today we are drinking Alpha Hive Double IPA from Coop Ale Works out of Oklahoma City.
It's another local one.
Right. 9.1% alcohol.
Woo!
I think if you want something to quench your thirst, you might just want one.
Yes.
To quench your thirst.
Yes, and while we are drinking our cool Coop Ale Works Alpha Hive Double IPA, if you're going to drink a beer that's going to knock you out, I recommend a boxing movie. And my boxing go-to movie is Cinderella Man, starring Russell Crowe.
I love that movie.
This is my favorite boxing movie. And I'll have people argue with us on the forums, be like, that's a terrible. This is awesome. It's based on a true story. They're never true stories. It's based on a true story about Jimmy Braddock, down on his luck boxer during the Great Depression, comes back. Spoiler alert, he's not that bad at boxing. It's a fun family story. It's got action. It's got drama. It's beautifully filmed. It's a gorgeous movie. So if you're
good family meal,
great family
movie.
If you're gonna drink a beer that's gonna knock you out, watch a movie that's gonna knock you out. So I recommend Cinderella Man, Russell Crowe. We'll tag him on Twitter later. I'm sure he'll retweet that for us.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
It smells good.
Oh, it does.
It almost has a honey smell to it.
You know, you can taste the honey.
Whoa.
That's a big beer.
That's a big beer.
That's a big beer.
We might not make it through the podcast next hour.
You know, I'm not really an IPA fan.
Ooh, I like that, though.
Because everybody knows that, I think, already.
I think by now. We're not trying to... There's not like an IPA coalition that's mad at you about it.
But, you know, this isn't bad. It's not bad.
This one would be great outside barbecuing.
You know...
It doesn't have that long, lingering aftertaste.
So that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. You don't
smooth.
get that...
It's bitter, don't get me wrong. It's a double IPA. It's probably past 100 IBUs. I don't even know what it is.
But you don't get that herbal, dirty feeling in the back of your throat like you do from some IPAs.
You got to wash it down with something else. This is smooth.
Right.
Coop Ale Works makes good beer. These guys are...
This is the third or fourth one I've had from them. And
shout out to Coop Ale Works. We are actually going to... tag them on Twitter.
We will.
They make good beer.
Yeah.
So there we go. Episode 17. We're talking lagering. We got to go record podcasts now. We're continuing our mash tun discussion.
Right.
We're talking about temperatures, sparging, multi-stage, decoction, all that good stuff. So if you want to learn more about that, make sure you go to handyhomebrew.com. Go to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. Follow us, Handy Homebrew Podcast. Matt Paulson, I think that's it.
No. We're not beer experts.
We're beer enthusiasts. Cheers.